Hello, welcome to another episode of our podcast. Our guest tonight is the lead vocalist of Madrugada and a successful solo artist, Mr. Sivert Høyem. Happy to have you. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Well, for starters, what's the current status of Madrugada? Is it an active band or are you on hiatus?
We're on the. I think it's the latter. We're not doing anything at the moment. We did play together from 2019 until late 2023, and then when the tour ended, we didn't really have any plans. So we don't really know what we're gonna do. I'm back to doing my solo stuff now, and whatever happens in the future happens. So it's kind of the way we like to keep it. Just we all have other stuff that we do, so we'll see what happens.
Your comeback came as a surprise, actually. So I was wondering about the reasons to come back and how was the story behind you coming back for the 2022 album.
Initially, the sort of incentive to come back together was the 20th anniversary of our debut album, Industrial Silence, in 2019, and that was that was John, the original drummer's idea that we should sort of see see if we could. I guess I guess some of the motivation also was trying to get some kind of more positive ending to the band. We got a pretty tragic ending with Robert passing away, and it's uh, it's been quite traumatizing for the rest of us also. So I mean, it's that whole band. It's a huge part of our lives. So it just meant a lot of us for the three of us to get back together and under more positive circumstances and play this music again. So, but it's all from here on out. It's all gonna just have to be a labor of love. So, and we'll see what happens in the future. As I said, we all have different careers and obligations. So,
Yeah, one thing I was wondering about, you were born and bred in Surtland.
yeah,
Am I getting it right? The
yes, more or
sound?
less.
Uh,
Yeah,
and you have polar nights and polar days there, right?
yeah,
And then you come up with a name for a band that means the period of time from the midnight to the dawn.
yeah.
Is the pun intended? Like for you, the madrugada there in Surtland takes like weeks, not hours, to actually happen, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We always imagine that we play this kind of nocturnal music. It's night music in a way. We had all these, or I had at least all these sort of images in my head about our music belonging in these sort of dark cityscapes or industrial landscapes at night. Always thought looking at a city at night was very beautiful, or being out driving in a car in the night. So, and it's I don't know. We were never very never very direct or conscious about our northern Norwegian origin when we started out. We always wanted to travel to other places, travel with our music, and record in the big musical epicenters of the world. Like we went to New York and Los Angeles and London and Berlin, and that was always this sense of adventure and reaching out and traveling was always a big part of it. Never really thinking about where we came from at all, but of course, with foreign press, mostly it was a big focus on that because it was, I suppose, a little bit exotic to have a sort of a Americana, sort of atmospheric sounding rock and roll band coming from the high north of Norway.
Yeah, you kind of answered my next question because there's this theory about how environment, the landscape you were born and bred in, kind of affects your artistic output. So
Yeah,
people from like mountains tend to play harsher music, stuff like that, and apparently you're not the case, or maybe you subconsciously just kind of soaked some of the atmosphere from the
I
place you were
suppose
born?
definitely there's a little bit of both. There's the fascination with big cities and the need to have adventures and stuff like that, and reaching out, traveling. Uh, Rock and roll was always kind of, to me, it's a bit of it's kind of an urban sound in a way, but there was always a lot of Americana and the roots of rock music in what we did. And coming from Northern Norway, I guess the thing that sort of influenced us the most is sort of there's an earnestness to being from such a small place. You know, we're not in our art, in our music, we were not very seldom, at least, ironic about things. There's an earnestness to our music that set us apart from a lot of our peers at the time. I thought so. That's all not a Norwegian, or it comes from coming from a small town. I think sort of simplicity.
Well, you mentioned your urge to travel, and uh, while I was preparing for this interview, I kind of read some interviews you already did, and half of them were actually made by Greek people. What's the
Yeah.
story behind the mutual love between you, Madrugada, and Greece?
Yeah, it just started out the right way, I suppose, back in 2000 when we were touring all over Europe at that time, having to sort of build brick by brick, and there were always people at the shows who were interested, very much into the band, but when we came to Greece, it was like already sold out. So we took notice of that, just people were very much into the music. um, so something had been happening there that was very sort. It just clicked right away, and we kept prioritizing coming back to Greece, and I kept doing it as a solo artist. So I'm there like one or two times on every tour, and I don't think that goes for like all artists. Will always go to Greece on every tour, but so that's there's an exchange, there's a mutual sense of love and between us, I think.
Yeah, not the issue because like the early Marillion days, they were popular in England and in Poland. The rest of Europe, not so much.
Oh,
For no obvious reason, but it just went that way. Okay, on an island. What was the story behind your trip to Nixund? What would you describe the theme of the album was?
it was kind of a bit of a coincidence that I ended up going up to my home sort of region of Westerollen to do this. Um, it actually there was a in the beginning there was more of a focus on the way we were gonna make the album. There's a set up a makeshift studio in a nice sounding big wooden room. And then we started musing about where do we find such a room. And then we were talking about, the south of France would be nice to go to, or stuff like that. Where's the food? Where do they have good food? And where would it be nice to spend some like 3 weeks or something recording? But this was during the pandemic, so we couldn't really we couldn't really plan ahead and know that we could go somewhere. The plans, the directives, everything were changing constantly. So we thought, oh, it's safer to do it in Norway. And I always, you know, as we talked about earlier, it was always we were always reaching out, traveling, going to other places that didn't have anything to do with our origin. And so it was kind of a happy coincidence that I ended up going up there. And when I started thinking about going up to Northern Norway and recording, like very close to where I grew up, I got all these ideas about what such an album could be. And I guess I don't know if there's one theme of the album, like the place where it's been recorded is a small fishing village that was mostly it's called Nixon, and it's about an hour's drive from where I grew up. So it's right there out in the Arctic Ocean, and it's a very it has its own rough aesthetic and feel to it. And so I guess the place plays a major role. And I started coming up with all these stories, some of them from history, some of them sort of imagining what a life up there for some people might be, and then also mining my youth and my childhood a little bit for inspiration and little stories that I pieced together. So it's got very much to do with the place. I think there's not one theme. It's definitely quite romantic in scope. The album, um, inspired somehow by the early writings of Knut Hamsun, which were all penned up there. He wrote some of the most beautiful books he wrote up there, and I always was is a long answer, but I was always incredibly proud when I read those books, knowing that the landscape he describes in Pan and Victoria, these beautiful books, that's where I grew up. So there's that, the sort of having the landscape play a major part in the lyrics as well.
Yeah, I don't mind the long answer because actually the next question was supposed to be about Knut Hamsun.
All
So
right.
you already covered that. One song I found like distant from the other ones is "When Your True Love Is Gone." I mean,
Yeah,
I get that Celtic jig rhythm in it,
true.
and it kind of sounds like an upbeat one, but it isn't, right? It's not a happy song.
It's not a happy song at all, and in the theme of it is not really connected to the whole theme of like the place where it was recorded, but it just sort of the mood to me it felt like a song that could fit in on the album. But I'd written it earlier. Definitely a folky sort of Celtic influence. There isn't a lot of my music, big influence from British folk music, English folk music, Irish traditions, stuff like this. Um, Also, I think there's a big Leonard Cohen influence. Also, I think I saw it. I saw it. That's a beautiful T-shirt.
Yeah, but it's a mashup with the cover of Dark Throne's Transylvania Hunger. I found it
I
somewhere on the
saw it. I
internet, and
saw it. I saw
yeah, I
it.
find it hilarious. So, okay, is it true that "Aim for the Heart" was inspired by Chopin?
A bit, yeah. There is like his chords are way more advanced than anything I'm I'm playing. I'm not that harmonically. Uh, uh, I'm not that harmonically advanced to so that I can actually say that it's it's got anything to do with Chopin. But there is a little line played in the guitar that's taken from one of his pieces. I'm not really sure which one it is, but I always listen to his nocturnes whenever I want to try and relax on a plane. I love his music. I really do, and it just um, it just fit right in there. That little guitar melody is that do 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 do. It's I don't know which piece it is, but it's one of his very famous ones.
Yeah, and so there's something in the keyboards in the background that also reminds me of Chopin, but it's kind of smartly clever. It was clever to cover it up with that border music feel, the rhythm.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, it reminded me of Calexico. I'm not sure if you know the band.
I love them. Yeah. I'm also the border music thing was that's well catched. I mean that's definitely that was a big inspiration. That sort of musical exchange that's going on in those in the American Southwest. I always thought, that whole Spanish Mexican influence on country music in that region I always thought like Texas country music is the one that sort of it just has this romantic depth to it and sadness. You know, Towns Van Zandt comes to mind, of course.
Ever thought about getting a mariachi band together?
I'd love that. I'd love that. Yeah.
Okay, going back to Cohen, Keepsake. It
Yeah.
sounds Cohen-ish, or perhaps maybe even more like Jackson C. Frank. And that one you already kind of covered, because I was supposed to ask you um, whether you're into, like the folk music from the 60s, 70s, like, the original American scene, like
Yeah.
Dylan and forward.
All of them. It's always been like if you spend your time writing songs and you want to be serious about writing song lyrics, you're gonna uh, the your path is gonna musical path is gonna take you to those people. You know, there's so many great people to still to discover from that era. You know, it's not just there's so like obviously I grew up with Leonard Cohen, then moved on to Dylan. Both of them part of my musical upbringing. It was like music playing at my house when I was a kid, really, especially Leonard Cohen. And I've been into country music. Sometimes I mentioned Towns Van Zandt, of course, George Jones, Graham Parsons. You know, it's just goes on and on with these guys, and of course Joni Mitchell was a was a huge inspiration for a long time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but on Dancing Headlights, you also seem to, kind of maybe not side, but kind of name check two artists I really, really enjoy. I mean, Love versus the World sounds a lot like something Ryan Adams would record. And I
yeah.
stress Ryan, not Brian.
No, I like both. I like. I grew up with Brian Adams playing on the radio when I remember it was one of the first records I got when I was like 8 or 9. Reckless album. It's a classic, I think. And also I think there's echoes of Bruce Springsteen, which
Yep,
has been
that's
important for me, and Madrugada, you know. So
yeah. Actually, I was just about to ask you whether "Living It Strange" was based on some of Springsteen's music, because it sounds a lot like Boss.
oh, could be. It's I don't know. It's on that album on Dancing Headlights. I was both me and the guys in my band. I recorded it with my touring band. So it's a very live thing. It's recorded, I imagine, in much the same way that Bruce Springsteen and the East Street Band worked on an album like Born in the USA, where the it seems to me that those recordings are quite rough sometimes, but then it's like totally blown up and mixed as beautifully as possible. Uh, so it's kind of polished in the mix, but the playing is rough. Uh, so yeah, we really wanted to just not not worry so much about being original or being contemporary or anything. No, the last album it was kind of recorded. I'm and it's kind of the same way that I imagine like an album like Born in the USA by Bruce Springsteen. The way they did that, to me, it sounds like the playing is kind of rough, and it's definitely a lot of live playing, and it's kind of rough sounding, but then it's like beautified and like really blown up in the. It's a really beautiful kind of polished mix, and that's kind of what we went for here as well. And we didn't really we let a lot of our sort of early influences bleed through. Also, we didn't really worry that much about sounding contemporary or anything. We just sort of did this for our own enjoyment. we just enjoyed playing live together, and I had this set of songs that I thought were strong songs, and it didn't really I just needed to do something immediate and kind of simple and not too sort of artistically complex, because I came from an album with on an island that had been very it was more conceptual, and it's all about the visual things and the process and everything. So I wanted to do something different. So
Yeah, I've read some reviews saying that it was too poppy or too polished, but I guess you can't make everyone happy, right?
no, I don't worry about that. I'm still a rock artist, and I'm still gonna do nasty sounding things
But
next.
yeah,
So we'll see.
to a degree, I would agree that it was more upbeat than on an island, definitely.
Yeah.
And does or did or does music bear any, like therapeutic value for you?
Well, definitely, and I've been thinking about. I've been thinking about this a little bit. It definitely has a. There's a therapeutic. I don't even know how to say that word. It's,
Yeah, I was
it
struggling as
feels.
well.
Yeah, yeah, you did well. I'm gonna work my way around pronouncing that word. But actually, I've been thinking about it because I was listening to a podcast about about Freud's dream book, his first work that he published on like his theories on dreams and the interpretation of dreams, and I think like all I think there's a kinship to songwriting, especially when you're a songwriter like me who doesn't really have a plan with their writing. Like I sit down and to a degree it all comes from the subconscious, like dreams do, in a way. So it's I don't have like my I don't have a lot of. I'm not very conscious about the tools of my craft. It all just kind of whatever comes out comes out. So so in that sense, it's akin to it comes from the same place that dreams do, like this big sort of reservoir of music and poetry and whatever films, whatever has is stored in there somewhere. I just wish it was kind of more readily available to me all the time, but that's just the way it is. But it definitely music can it feels has that sort of purpose, like something to a comforting thing, a comforting force, even in my life, and also there's this beautiful thing that music does, especially sad music. It can it can give you this good sad feeling um, that that's a very nourishing feeling for your I hesitate to say soul because I'm not a religious person, but to your whole it just connects you to your life, your past, and just the feeling of being alive. I find
Is catharsis the word you're looking for?
it's not really. It's just a calm, warm, uh, good, sad feeling. I'm looking. It can catharsis also, but like to me, there's a almost like a violent component to my performance. Like I get a lot of anger out in some songs live. So there's a definitely sort of a there's a violent quality to some of the performance of some of the more kind of dynamic hard rock songs that where I really like I'm channeling a very different part of me. So so there's there's an intersection here between music and psychology, I think.
You started with Madrugada. You started like 30 years ago. Now we have 2025. Would you say your writing method, your recording method, is still the same, or did it change a lot in the past 3 decades?
Yeah, it has, because in the early days, none of us knew how to write and finish a whole song. Those first songs that we did in Madrugada were all sort of a joint writing process. Like everybody just contributed what they knew how to do, like a bass riff, or it was based around a chord progression from the guitarist, or a bass riff, and then I added words and melody to it, and John did what he did, and it was just sort of because none of us could sit down and write a song from scratch. And I guess I moved on to doing that. The first one I wrote was that was only me, was Only When You're Gone, which is the second song on our not the last song on our second album. So up until then, it had all been just us working together. And I started writing more songs like that. And also, I guess that's when I started identifying more with the great folk or singer-songwriters from like 60s, 70s. We were talking about, Dylan and Cohen and all those people. So, and yeah, I don't know how I operate these days. It all mostly comes from guitar playing, or just walking walking and starting sort of humming a little bit and singing a little melody and some words, and then I hurry home and start writing. um, so it's all very hit and miss. It's just whatever whatever mood you're in that day, could a song could come out of it.
Yeah, writing on handkerchiefs and then losing half of them, right?
Yeah, or a lot of taking notes on my phone these days and humming into them. Yeah.
Your songs seem kind of deeply spiritual, even though you state you're an atheist, which
Yeah,
is shared by me. I was wondering, where do you draw your spirituality from?
I'm drawn to spirituality. I'm very into history of, and that's my other sort of passion outside of music.
Are you a
And
major in history?
no, I'm not a history major, but I did study at the university, but I dropped out when the career with the band started rolling. It was really just to get a student grant so that I could, and history was the one subject that I could bear going to at the university. But I was always going to be a musician. No, I didn't get a degree. Uh, and my grades weren't really going anywhere. It wasn't really going very well for me at university. I wasn't there half of the time. But I mean, uh, it's still a big. I guess when you're into history, it's like it's a way of viewing, of being in the world, really. Like you have your history nerds, and then you have other people in a way. It's just it informs all your interests, and it informs your interest in music also, I think, in a sense. But I guess a lot of my interest with uh, spiritual art and like I can go to church even though I'm a non-believer, because I just like that. I like the idea that there's a space set there that's not a part of the marketplace. It's there because people go there to feel part part of maybe to feel a part of something bigger, and like connect with a divine being. But I don't think it's really that. I think it's also just they like being together. And So a lot of of course I love a lot of spiritual music. There's a lot of gospel music, and a lot of stuff I do in early Madrugada. um I love Bach, and all the beautiful art that's been created, and like spiritual art that's been created. So And I think music sort of fills that in a secular society. It sort of fills that need for to feel to be serious about something. I have that need, like, and music does that to me. Like it gives me something to be serious about. And some music, when I listen to it, it's like, wow, it really means something. This life, it's not all just fun and games, and it's not all just commercialism. It's something more to be alive. And I think music sort of fills a need for something spiritual, in a way. So that's a very complicated way of meandering way to answer your question, but I think it's an important stuff. And you still, even if you're non-religious, you got to sort of find a way to you got to find a meaning in life and things to be serious about and things to find some kind of path. And it's a complicated thing when you're not putting your fate in the hands of a divine being.
You did guest vocals on Satyricon Phoenix.
Yeah.
Are you just like mates, or are you into black metal scene of Norway, like the second wave?
We knew each other from way back. We were label mates on EMI Records in the early 2000s. So I ran into him a lot, and he was one of the guys who sort of had a foot in like other parts of the music scene. I never met any of the other uh, black metal people, but he was really like, I met him around the Turbo Negro guys, and we were just hanging out in a lot of the same places. Like he's curious about other kinds of music, and I found when I got more sort of involved with that scene, I found that that's the case for many of them. Like it's just a very serious love of music in Norwegian black metal, and sort of people are open and curious about all kinds of music, really. Um, but yeah, we knew each other vaguely, and then he had heard me being more inspired by Norwegian black metal on my Long Slow Distance album, and then he called me because he heard me playing the title track from that on television, and then we started talking about doing that song.
Well, Oslo's National Library did an exhibition on black metal, and also a couple of your embassies around Europe
Yeah.
did some exhibitions as well. Would you say black metal is something like, export goods of Norway, like in the top three, behind, I don't know, fossil fuel and fish?
It's definitely the one musical genre that's known worldwide. Like that's genuinely Norwegian. Like there is an offshoot of there's a there's a there's a part of black metal that can be sort of that's appreciated and recognized as like a genuinely Norwegian across the world. But I think it's still kind of a marginal thing, really. Uh, uh, there are the like really big bands like Dimmu Borgir, and they're huge, but it's still a pretty marginal thing. I played Inferno Festival with Satyricon this Easter, and that draws people from like South America, all over the world, come there. But it's still like 12, 1,300. Like the main stage is like it's a big, like medium sized, big, or kind of big club in Norway, and that's it. It's not a huge. It has an intimate, sort of an insider thing still to it, which is cool.
And it kind of fits. I mean, black metal, Hamsun, romanticism, like it kind of goes in the same direction in a way.
I definitely recognize an appreciation for a lot of the same stuff that inspired me in black metal music, even though black metal comes from metal, which never really interested me much. So I'm not into like I can get some enjoyment out of stuff like Metallica, but it's mostly the ballads, you know, and or the slower songs. So like thrash metal stuff like that, Slayer doesn't really do anything for me. Um, it has to have that mood, that very strong mood that Norwegian black metal has, and that's when I start feeling some sort of kinship with it and recognizing a part of it that that I can relate to. But just metal is not really very interesting to me.
Okay, that's about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I
It
enjoyed
was a
this.
pleasure having you.
Yeah, it's a real pleasure. Thank you.